I am really excited to just learn more about, your perspective of, you know, the state of HR. And before we even dive in, I know you probably want to say hello because I've been talking nonstop since the clock went down, but I don't want to go into the tactics at first. I want to start with you saying hello and then also just dial it back and say, what exactly is HRing it in 25 look like? And based upon your 17 plus years experience through organizations, like Walmart and Brinkers. Like, what is that like? What is it like today? What have you seen and what's changed?
Well, first, thanks for the opportunity to meet with you. And I'm an attendee quite often on every webinar, and it's just capturing the unique perspectives and voices of people. I think internally we don't really look at inside of our company, and I've had the tremendous opportunity to support you, Jason. And I feel like with our 70 strong employees, it's a unique challenge that's different. HRing in 2025 could change tomorrow, just like the weather here in Dallas, Texas. It could snow. I don't know. But I didn't prepare anything to talk about what is HRing in 25. But I think to characterize it, I think we learn as we go at this time. Kind of in this the nature of the economics and politics and everything. But the one thing that I don't deviate from is people connection. And I'm passionate about people, and trying my best not to make it sound disingenuous or that I'm doing it for a reason. But I really want to know what people say about us when they go home to their spouse or partner. And I think we lose track a lot of that when we're reducing teams or growing, vice versa. It all comes down to, we always hear the greatest asset is your people. And the journey is kind of how I kind of would characterize HR as, don't forget about the folks that you're supporting and how important it is that they're on the journey from decision making to, change management. You bring people on the journey, it changes things from, for the life cycle of any change you want to implement. And that's as simple as, I have a problem. Is it a problem? How often do we make changes and people are like, why don't y'all do this? Well, we didn't listen, heard. So that's what I'd say about HRing in 2025. It's nimble, it's utility, it's pulling from generalist, payroll, comp, benefits, multitude of disciplines wherever we can to ensure that we're protecting the company, that it's ultimately to protect our employees, our team members.
Oh, I love that. And just you sort of tickled in the idea of this journey. And while we were talking offline, actually, you mentioned that a big part of your role, and maybe it does tie into this journey aspect that you were talking about, is that a huge part of your role is actually based off of trusting people by experience. And I would love for you, I wanted to ask you offline to elaborate, but I'll just ask you live to elaborate on that. Like, tell me what that means to you and how that impacts your day.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So trust is, I can't help but reference John Maxwell, a tremendous author, someone that, if you're a reader, you're a YouTuber, whatever, he's got a lot of great books out there. But in practice, if I look at the transfer, one of John Maxwell's groups, one of the things they did was, trust. There's 5 levels of leadership, but they're all based on your level of trust. And if I divert, keep me honest. I might I might rabbit holes into something else. So just keep me on the path.
You got
Uh,
it.
Positional leadership level 1, and I'm in my brain trying to remind myself of the steps with the 5. We only trust our leader in the beginning or even midway through our career or at any stage because of their title. And if you think about that, you're a candidate, you become an employee, you kind of have to just listen and do what they say. So you're going to do everything because you have to. The goal is to build the trust of employees, team members, your colleagues, your partners, in a way that they don't have to. It's that they want to. They see that you can do the things that you're asking them to do. They know that you're not just pushing something down, and you're on the journey, right at their side. And, fast forward, what does trust look like? It's I know about you, you know about me, but I'm approachable. I understand what's going on. And I know those are simple little things, but I've had to really call my own self out even lately. It's a lot of stuff's going on and there's a
Mm,
lot of unknowns. There's still list of employees, how many ever you have your head count, that are just as curious about this mystery too, and bring them on that journey, that trust that you have, transparency where you can. It's just, I think it helps across every aspect and angle of one's career, no matter where they're at.
interesting. And so this is interesting. This kind of is being carried from the previous two monthly webinars that we had. And there seems to be this one consistent theme, and it's like, in order to do the things you're talking about, which for me, it sounds and feels very much like you need some human to human connectivity, right? And there isn't like an app or a tool that can solve that for you, but you need to have some sort of you need to have some systems in place behind the scenes that can allow you to have those human experiences. And that's something that I'm fascinated about. Like, where is that like balancing act that occurs that, like, look, 70 people, and you've worked with organizations that have hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people, et cetera. And it feels like at the end of the day, you still need to do those human things, but there's a volume shift that requires certain systems to be in place. And so I want to get into some of like the tactical parts of that, but before kind of diving into the specific tools, I am kind of curious on how you sort of see that balancing act work so that on the one hand, it doesn't become like automated to a point of like, okay, Chris reached out to me because a box got flagged. But then the other hand, yeah, I did reach out because a box got flagged, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk to you.
Right. Yeah. So, gosh, I'd say tools, practices, I mean, I think this group, how many ever HR or anybody on this call could add a ton of value in kind of a melting pot of things we all do differently. And I know I'm not the most conventional person by all means, and I'm honest about that. I use a lot of different tools. I think the lost art of pen to paper is pretty important. And,
Mm,
I like to write a handwritten note to folks, not to say, hey, thanks. It's something that's intentional, from a new hire to even an exit. When someone leaves, I will rally behind them to help them find their gig if they haven't found it yet. I think it's just, what does that support look like? It's probably different for everyone. And by all means is how I approach things, the right way. But we have a 70-person team. We're mostly tech where we work. I think we've got all the technology in the world at our disposal, right? I could have 50 logins just to check engagement if I wanted them. But engagement is, you should already know that. Your relationship with supervisors, your relationship that it's kind of like we say to supervisors, your employees should never be surprised by a performance review. It's once a year, and well, they always are. Nobody likes them. Well, vice versa. You should never be surprised by something that maybe an employee does that is a little different than their course of, I want to leave, or, some of those things are, when you're in touch with employees, where, at the right level, it's not every day, let's have coffee. It's supervisors are an extension of HR. Depending
mm.
on the size of your organization, there should be many, many Chris's everywhere. We've got 65% of our workforce works in Cincinnati. I can't be in Cincinnati and Dallas, in a fair, balanced time. I rely on my great partners, Matt Zorn, incredible CIO or CTO at our company, Carrie Winkle, our senior project. I can name lists of them, but it's really developing those individuals to be the voice where people don't feel comfortable, and
Mm.
really getting a pulse on things where you can't be present to see it. The tools that help, I said handwritten note. I use an incredible tool called Postable. Uh, by the way, I don't know them more than paying an invoice for each card I send. It looks like a handwritten card that gets dropped in the mail, and you can put a gift in there. And I do it for new hires. It's just something unique and different. I think it would behoove you not to people just to Google and say, make handwritten notes easy if that's what you want to do, if handwriting is too tough. But, I think that's one of the tools. And then, we obviously, you have your HRS, ECM platforms. We use Rippling. We were on a old system where we were at that looked like a PowerPoint. And it wasn't about the look. It just robust or not robust, how much do you ultimately you want everything to tie together, because at the end of the day, it affects a user. Going into an RFP for a platform for HR or payroll, the first question I ask is, show me your user experience, the UI, like the platform. I want to know what it looks like when people are going to log on there. What's your user amount, what user activity, the percentage. And, I'm kind of throwing some things out there, but I think get the feedback is where I want to point to, is that journey. We often think we have these problems. We need these solutions. And sometimes our own employees will tell you it's not a problem, or yes, it is, or I have an idea. And then, give them some options, let them test it out and solicit the feedback, but do something with it, or you won't get valuable feedback again.
You meant this rings really strong. And during our previous chat, when I was asking you a little bit about some of the top tools that you use daily, the first thing you said in response was not actually a software, but people themselves. And I would love for you to just kind of expand on that, because I found that I wasn't expecting that to be an answer. I thought it was kind of like an easy, here's a question that you can just laundry list these apps that you use. But your first response was people, which of course, in retrospect, doesn't surprise me in the least. But I would love to hear your take on why people is your favorite tool.
Yeah. Thanks for the follow-up question to it. Being in the HR industry or in the HR side of business, it's human resources, people, partner, whatever iteration we are this year. People we change it around, but our job is to protect the resources of the company and to advocate for employees and find that balance, right? How often have we all sat at the table or wherever we're at and people think there's this problem? Well, okay, well, that affects the back end developers, right? And the front end. What do they say? Well, we don't know, but what? Okay, hold on. But when team members, partners, colleagues, when someone brings something to you, it's, we often just listen. We thank them for it, but you got to believe their feedback first. I'd back up a little bit. When you believe that when someone's going to give you feedback, that it's real, because it is real from their point of view, and you action on it, and you return back to them and say, hey, you know what? I looked into it. What is the follow-up? And employees, team members, they'll only go as far as giving you feedback for how you action on it and how you respect what they give you. If I ask for feedback all the time and there's nothing reported back, no change, oh, he got his list knocked out. He checked the box. Jason Etter, yeah, hey guys, I asked everybody. But if you switch gears and, on our platform internally, we have WorkProud. It's, I think it's a great, amazing tool, but you use your tools internally and send surveys out. Ask people, what is it that you don't have? What is it that you need? What should we stop, and change? And then take those data points and advocate for that and determine what's best. Because a lot of tools, I just told you I use Postable. I don't know if there's an implementation or API anywhere in the world that will connect to Postable. Maybe it does, but it's just a simple way to say, I hear you. So I'd say creativity, almost like a grassroots term for marketing. It's grassroots HR. It's before all the technology, we had to talk to people. We have employees right now in India, New Jersey, Indiana. We had one in Florida, Colorado, Minnesota. How do you make them feel like they're in the same office when they're not with technology? And I don't know that I answered your question, but we're all getting inundated with business development folks it's a tough time in sales from what I hear right now. Do yourself a favor and look at some of it. It doesn't mean you have to engage them, but take a peek. But there's a lot of stuff out there, but pick what's best for the company. And it's, I think I put in my notes to myself, does it make sense for the business? Does it solve an actual problem? And what will it look like when we do this? We say
I love
ROI,
that.
but what does it feel like?
I love that. Now, just because I know that some of the folks that are in attendance are going to ask this, like, okay, 70 folks, fine. What about 10,000 folks, 100,000 folks? How does, and from your experience being in organizations that have those dynamic sizes, employee counts, different locations, et cetera, how does that frame of mind shift or doesn't it? And is there like, just kind of want to get inside your head there to understand the difference? Like, okay, 70 people feels easy, but it is still multiple locations, two actual dispersed areas. You've dealt with restaurants that are franchised. There's hundreds or potentially even thousands of locations in addition to HQ and things like that, especially with your time at Walmart. Would love to kind of get your head in like how do those same theories apply when you're in those types of environments as well?
Yeah, I don't think they change. I mean, it's not scalable to say I can get to know 10,000 employees. I mean, maybe 50. And I don't feel like I'm the best at the 70 that we have here, but it's not about how much do I know or how much. It's, are you approachable when they need you, or are your direct reports that you should have as your mini me's that are extending your message and your support? And I think what your question was, big companies, does it change? It does not change for me, and that's probably why I wouldn't work out at a massive organization again, because I've seen what it's like when it's small. But I'm just being honest, like that, I
Mm,
value knowing who I work with, but in other organizations, it's really, I would backtrack and say I need to work and really invest my time in developing anyone with direct reports so that I have someone that can report up that, hey, this area of the United States, this DMA out in Idaho, there's a major, okay, well, someone's got to tell me. It's like
mm,
with IT, you're going to find out because something's broken and you can't get it to work. HR, a lot of folks, I think they hold back from their feedback because they're afraid of what it would look like when they share it or ask a question. And I guess what I'd say is, with one company that I was fortunate to have the opportunity to go work at, they had, it was 8,500 employees, 100 and something locations, and the only tool they had was a paper, black and white handbook and training manual about that thick. And like, show me how many people have finished this training program with 38 pages.
mm.
Oh, okay, hold on, leadership team. What are our steps of service that are all over this thing that doesn't even talk about the benefits? Anyone name the steps of service? Oh, so we don't even know them. Okay, well, not that every executive needs to know every granular detail of accounting and SOP, but that changed to a 4-page training manual that our team was able to reduce turnover, increase upsells, adding additional to the per person average on a check for in the restaurant side. But it wasn't the training; it was just making it right for an 18-year-old that just needs to know what they need to do to get the job done today, not next week. So I guess what I'd say is it works, but that program, the evolution of that was starting small and getting the feedback from area directors that had all the restaurants underneath them, then going to the general managers and saying, what do you think? And we already knew what the area director said. And then we took all of that and we combined it into a program, including core values and really who are we? It's just that journey. You can take people on the journey without a ratio of 1 to 70. In my case, it could be 1 to 1,000,000, but you can't use that as your excuse for not knowing who your people are.
Mm.
There's plenty of reporting out there, but hey, Jason, New Jersey, hey, tell me who's your go-to? Who's replacing you? Okay, good. Who are you worried about? Yeah, we can do that all day long, but don't wait till the once a year talent calibration that could feel
Mm.
like exercise. Know who your resources are and find the people that, if you don't have them, that can be that person that you can trust to give you the right feedback that you're going to value and you're going to do something with.
I love that. Let's continue the conversation a little bit further with when you're evaluating tools or platforms, especially within like the HR stack, it's et cetera. Like I'd love to just get inside your head about what are some of those check the box scenarios where like, okay, well, these are the things that I need to first understand before I get to the place where I said, show me what the user experience is. Then I'd love to get a little bit more inside your brain and what you're looking for, what you're hoping can be accomplished, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question that could go real deep. First of all, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Okay, we say HR stack.
Right.
Is payroll broken? Because look, the reality is, and sorry if there's anybody on the biz dev side of payroll system, they all do the same thing. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you set it up right, they're all going to pay people. Your challenges you have with your own system aren't broken because of the system. It's like because of you. Just saying it.
Mm.
Responsible for some of my own things in the past I've blamed the system for, right? We want to know what the problems are and what do we need. An example I would share is, we recently we rolled out with Rippling. It's a end-to-end suite, but what's unique about Rippling is I almost like canceled all talks with them because they couldn't give me a sandbox environment for us to see and play in and see what it felt like. You don't have that. How am I? Well, we'll go through it all. No, I want a login that doesn't break anything. I want to see what this thing does because I'm going to be in it every day, right? They were able to kind of accommodate it with different approaches, but we didn't need all the additional services they had, but we needed learning management. We needed a way to tie development, performance, and all those things in one place. Most of these systems, they're all piecemeal together. They're purchased and they're like this conglomerate, and they all don't really talk. Like over the Rippling and a few others, you can find systems that are all fully integrated. It's an employee profile, and I can see anything I want. But to answer your question, what are you trying to solve? Benefits administration, all these things. I mean, there's so many things these systems can do. And what's right for our business, knowing what the user experience looks like. You said, accept the user experience. You said something in the beginning of that. No, I would start, what's the user experience, not the admin, employee. They need to ask off. That's where they go to look. That's where they look at their paychecks. Every payday, they're on there looking at it. Just log on and show me what it looks like. I want to see what they see. Sounds silly. How hard was it to do that? And, and then take it from there. And then I would say I learned an amazing thing from the restaurant world. It's called mushroom rollout. You start small, you iron out the kinks, you go to your next one, and you add more people, and you get all that feedback. You use that first group as your subject matter experts. They're going to be your go-to, helping out with calls from other people. Your second step is to iron out those kinks. And then at the end of the project, rather, you've got like a 6-month rollout that it's fine-tuned. You've got internal resources ready to help you with your own rollout. But your people were all on the journey, and they became internal experts, and you mitigate, reduce all the calls about, I don't know where to find it. Okay, call Jim. He's your password guy, whatever. I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go into making a decision for an HRS system, ECM, HCM, but it's ultimately, what do you actually need? And what are the things you might need that you didn't know about? It's employee rewards and comp bands, survey. There's a lot of stuff there, but 70 people strong. I really don't need a compensation management program. I could use it one day, but that's my 5-year plan, right? That's the runway.
Right.
I got out of the hangar with who we had before, where we're just kind of sitting there doing stuff. The runway is in 3 years. We want to grow our business, and I want the service to match where our growth plans are too. If Rippling can't scale to the employee count that I'd like to have in 3 years, why am I even talking to them?
Right.
So
That's very useful information. I like that quite a bit, actually, especially with like you're investing in something that you're expecting that's going to grow with you. And I think that's really informative in terms of understanding from your perspective, like what exactly this investment entails. With that too, you keep, I'm going to say, I don't know if this sounds a little controversial in terms of like the word culture, right? You're talking a lot about like, I love the mushroom effect. I think that's really important. You're finding your champions, and your champions are going to become your subject matter experts, and that's wonderful. And the people part of this is everything, right? And it sounds great, and same thing with like, oh, every culture is everything, and that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, it's kind of, I feel like it's a term that gets used as an excuse sometimes and doesn't really actually have like not in every kind of case, but in a lot of cases I've seen where this idea of culture is more like, well, we have a vision board and that's where culture lives. And instead it's like, well, what is your approach to keeping culture alive and managing multi-location teams, virtual people, how do you take that vision board, though, that and what culture looks like here at the organization you're at, how does that actually become an implemented plan?
That's a really good question I didn't prepare for. In my mind, I've worked with some incredible, CMOs, chief marketing officers, and I'm not going to name drop. I was sitting here, I'm thinking of the guy named Tom. I'm going to say TK. If anyone in my network knows that name, they'll know who it is. But, you know, I think it's a lot like a food rollout, right?
Mm,
You have a vision board, marketing. You're a marketing leader. You know what I'm. Oh, we have this plan, and it's like in the clouds. But then when you look at the last iteration, it's like, where did all that go? Oh, well, this is what we actually need and we need to do.
mm,
We had people taste this food. We rolled out mail. It does not work in this market. Well, culture. I think if you don't define the culture you want, it'll define you. I think employees,
mm,
team members, the culture will become its own. And culture is a big, fun, trendy punch word, whatever you want to call it. Your culture, do you know what it is first? And then the vision board, the people helping you determine what your culture is or what it's not, they should be the ones reducing that thing down or adding to. And that's back to the journey. I didn't make this should be titled The Journey. I don't know why we didn't. I
mm.
didn't think through this. It's the journey. And I don't mean to sound so, it sounds almost tactile. Just use people. Well, use people with intent. First, to back up, you need alignment at the top. If you're an HR leader, I believe if you don't have a seat at the table, a real seat at the table to advocate for your team members and also to push back on team members. This isn't all about giving it. I'm sorry, it's not, everyone doesn't get what they want, right? But
Mm,
compromise is, what are people saying? What are they feeling? What is it? And if we're talking about culture, what are your core values? A lot of executives want to know people know the core values. Okay, do you want 12, 14, 16, 8? How many are there? Go memorize them. You're good. But how about you change that and you say, what do we want our culture to be, leadership team? Document that in your own little white piece of paper. Hey, anyone with a direct report, what do you want your culture to be? I know it sounds very in the air. There's a great company, Partners in Leadership, that facilitates stuff like this. That you're including everyone, even if the executive team has already made a decision.
mm.
That's contrarian to saying value people's feedback, but sometimes you don't have that opportunity. But what you can do is say, if we're coming up with our mission, vision, guiding principles, include everyone and go through exercises to say, this is okay. Our key results are these things. Y'all helped us do it. So how are we going to get there and what's our goal is different than, guys, here's our 4 key results. Let's go get it. We need to reduce turnover. We need to increase, EBITDA or revenue, whatever that is. People, when they're on that journey, I believe they respond in a different way. And you get tremendous results where alignment at the top they have to be aligned. The deviation from the top and any piece of this, it kills the whole thing. Then you're not really an aligned unit and you won't have alignment down to your warehouse employee.
Hmm.
Did I answer you?
Absolutely.
I told you to
You
keep me
did.
honest. Yeah.
You did. And I'm looking at some of the questions that we had previously chatted about, and I'm trying to think about how I can integrate that a little bit deeper. And it's like, I think what I want to know a little bit more from your perspective with that is like, okay, it seems like getting buy-in at the executive level is challenge number one. But challenge number two, and arguably challenge number 3,000 is how do I get that culture, that vision to then sprinkle down into everyone and
Right.
be something that they live and breathe. And like help me understand like where you see the most effective methods of making that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it buy-in at the executive level. It's alignment. Do we have a culture problem?
Okay.
Here's a piece of paper. Each of you people, like write it down. silly, but is there a real alignment at the top? And I'm not being fatalist. I really don't think there's been a place I've worked where there was 100% alignment, but I don't think there ever will be. But
Mm.
when you do go through things and you agree that yes, the majority, then you have alignment. Okay, we all know what's happening, but the buy-in pieces, I just want to make sure I went through that. But how do you sprinkle it through? Well, what are you trying to accomplish, and how do you memorialize that into every piece of your well-being, right? So if your goal is to get, one of my things is make everyone as passionate about work proud as we are.
Mm.
Make our clients, future clients, as passionate about our product as we are. You're like confused. Well, we didn't do anything with that because there wasn't a lot of alignment on our group that we need this coin phrase. It's for me to say, how do I sprinkle it? Hey, Jim, you're over this group. Hey, what are you guys doing? What do your clients think about this in comparison to what you think? Because you believe in it. I mean, I know. I mean, it's a great tool, but what would your clients say? That's, well, if we have, and I might be confusing you and others with, I can't see them, but they're probably like, huh? When when you're trying to address culture, I mean, it's just such a big topic that if I were to
Yeah.
change that to a new back office system, how do you sprinkle that? Well, you tie it to everything they do. And you don't just say it's one thing. The Hawthorne effect is we'll get results based on recency, right? Like we put attention on it, we got the results, but then like 2 weeks later, we're talking about the same thing because all we did was change some actions. So what I
Mm.
believe is experience is what shapes your beliefs. They lead to actions and they produce a result. That result is either desired or undesired, right? Oftentimes when we try to do anything, in my experience, to change or to incorporate or add, etc., it's we go and change the action or we try to force a change on a belief.
Mm.
I don't think that leads to anything until you change the experience to change a belief. If I told you I was a diehard libertarian my whole life, 45 years old, I think 45 or 46. Uh, can you change 45 years of my experiences and beliefs overnight? No. It takes it's a long process, right? But the way you do that is you're getting feedback, you're soliciting feedback, you're open to your idea is not the best. And if you didn't take people on the journey, be ready to answer that. That's going to be a topic. But how do you sprinkle it? How do you measure it? What tools do you have to say? My KPIs are these things. Okay, where
Mm.
else do they live? If I ask accounting, what are our KPIs? And they name them off. Okay, what are you working on right now? Oh, I'm doing this thing. How does that impact our client? Well, it doesn't. Well, actually, it does. And it might be an education piece of, yeah, accounting does impact the client. How can you reduce costs to reduce the cost on the client? How can you process their payments or whatnot in a more expedient way or get creative to help them? How does a janitor? I mean, everyone should be able to tie themselves to what the key initiatives are and what that does for the company, the culture, in the client or customer.
Mm. It seems like, so if I'm gonna try to attach something you said earlier to what you just discussed, um, it feels like, especially when the organizations start to get larger or you have a dispersed work group, such as multiple locations, you have remote workers, it seems like you really do need to have like teams or pockets of people that are like allies for you that you can trust, that will report back to you, that will say, hey, Chris, heads up, this is an issue, or hey, I wanted to give you an update on how we're doing with your your initiative here to increase this piece of our vision, and I want to like let's have a back and forth about that, rather than you kind of being relying on yourself and your gut, if you will, to know that it's happening.
Yeah. So you're talking, yeah, what I heard you say, redundancy, things like that. Like, how are you, the people around you, what do they know and not know to,
Yeah.
to make you replaceable, but also, it kind of goes further, but I'd say, yeah, on a development piece, but it's, I recall at Walmart, we rolled out the Workday. It's a massive payroll HR system. I think people know who Workday is, not WorkProud. Well, they did this ingenious, like really smart thing. They made each little market had a Workday ambassador.
Mm,
They got incentivized just to go and educate people. And, without how many Walmarts are in the United States, how do you get a message and, across to everyone that sounds the same, looks the same? Here's why we did it. You have brand ambassadors they were there with you. They got trained. They learned some things, kind of like a train the trainer. They're your advocates. They're out there. So back to that question, how do you get all the things to sprinkle out? You utilize your most important asset, your people. They
mm.
are your brand advocates. So,
Love that. I love that. And so, to get a little tactical, like what are some of those strategies you use to keep them motivated, keep the teams engaged, even during like challenging times in particular? Like what are some of the things you're like, okay, well, this is the Chris Nelms tried and true philosophy and of, here from based off of my history, my mistakes, and my wins.
lots of mistakes. So I'll do those. I'll wait 23 minutes when the call closes to go through that round. But, I think, uh, gosh, as I reflect on all the stuff that I've had the fortune to be a part of and learn and grow from, I think, you know, how, gosh, I think we're learning and growing as a day. I mean, things change. I mean, look at AI. I mean, please don't go into AI. I hear it every day from people. It's AI, 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 but it'll change next week. Like there are so many things changing. If we're not changing and curious, it doesn't mean you have to have the highest aptitude to learn tech or anything else. You got to be curious. And I think if you don't
Mm,
accept that change is a guarantee, everything changes. Business, employees, motivations, demotivations. I think if we have any recruiters on the phone, they probably tell you 9 months ago I was the only girl at the dance, and now they're the only. It's like back and forth, right? It just changes.
mm.
And what I'm trying to say is be prepared to adapt and shift and change and be open to it, because you're never going to make everyone happy. My goal, the Chris Nelms approach, how can I get the majority in agreement that it was a good thing? The, the other piece, those that don't feel like it was, like,
Mm.
it's not that I'm going to change their belief. I've got to change their experience first. Their beliefs are this. I need to identify those beliefs, that why they're in their predicament. But I'm going to go through experience. I'll try to change that experience, but they might have feedback that changes my belief that maybe I'm wrong. And I don't think I answered your question, so maybe you need to repeat it.
No, it's okay. It's actually, I think you did answer the question, but I think what I want to touch on a little bit further is like, tell me a little bit about like what you use to measure whether or not you're succeeding in this initiative or not. Are there tools that help you? Or are there tactics that help you, et cetera?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking about HR tools, success, I mean, open enrollment, I mean, we all know there's reporting to show us a percentage of participants, how many people changed their election, all those things. But from an initiative HR level, I'd say that, the Rippling rollout is a good example. It's what are some of the problems you wanted to address before you made the decision? Those can't go away, because you should revisit that and think through, did this add value? Did it accomplish what we wanted? Is it solving? And those problems should be front and center of your vendor you're talking to, where you go to them and say, these were the problems and we don't feel like it changed. You stay on that path of, ideation's great, but assessment's bigger. Assessment will keep the ideators out of the clouds. Right? The assessment says, no, here's the stuff that's broken. Now, vendor, client, program change. Will this accomplish what we're trying to solve? Is there a problem, and will it fix it? So I think tools, all the reporting robust features that someone has in their system is one thing. It's engagement surveys. It's pre-post, running an engagement survey, running it again, not around Christmas time. HR people, run that around Christmas. You're gonna get great results. But you're running pre-post. But I think no one will ever hold me more accountable than myself. So I might have a skewed version of it, but any tool, from feedback to systems to, within WorkProud, our system, we think our active participant amount, it's so high. It's higher than we eat our own dog food. That's a great thing to report out, but I think a potential client might want to know why. Why? I can look at client company culture. Those are our three standing things. Is what I'm doing add value to a client, company, or culture, et cetera, right? Now, I can go look at active participation rates. I can look at all that, but I want to look and see how are they recognizing others with this platform? Who are they recognizing? Is it supporting a thing or is it just a good job on something that you're already supposed to do? So I'd say from an employee experience standpoint, that's what HR is all about. Even if it's a 401k change, they're like, I got that notice, good, no big deal. You know, HR, we spend hours behind the scenes trying to figure out how to maximize our employees' investment into 401k. Deep dives, and employees don't ever hear that, but that's a pretty easy thing to measure. Did it or did it not? Right. But for change management, implementing something new, every tool and resource you have can tell a story, but it's garbage in, garbage out. Did you preset your expectations for what it should look like with your own measurements for success? And then be prepared to go report back to whoever it is you report to on here's what they were. We talked about this. Here's where we're at. Now, again, I don't know if I went around your question, but
No.
specific example would be difficult because HR has just so many disciplines and things that it could be a number of things.
I think that's a big reason why I wanted to have you on this call was because I feel that it's for a lot of folks out there, like there's a perception of what HR is. And you're kind of answering what I think the reality is it's a whole lot. If I had
I
to,
think
really simplify, what is HR? Oh, it's a whole lot of things,
I
and
like to chime in there. I like to chime in there and
mm,
just for all
yeah.
the HR professionals out there, because I'm assuming that the majority of our audience, uh, they're mostly likely in the HR field or something similar. You know, it's lonely at the top. We say that to a lot of the executives and leaders, and on the leadership team with me, it's not that's not even important. It's in HR. You hear the worst of the worst. You hear the best of the best. You have to take that and figure out how you go home to your family every week, right? Reductions in force, layoffs, cancer, serious things that affect people that you can't leave your office and go talk to somebody and air out. I'm not going to hijack this to become a mental health awareness thing, but I feel like I should. How are you coping with what you deal with at work, or you won't be your best for your people that you're being paid to take great care of? And I take that pretty seriously. I really do. I think through, what do people say when they go home from work? What do they say to their partner, their spouse, their kids? And then with my kids, I have my kids just this week, spring break. They're up stuffing envelopes or helping out in the office. I want them to see I'm happy and I love my job, because I really do. I want them to know that, I think so. I guess what I'm trying to say is take care of yourself. And HR isn't just about comp benefits. It's the most confidential of medical down to financial, divorce. It's a normal thing for us that most people think, oh, they just hire and terminate. The hours in between of helping employees get through personal challenges and things is what led me to believe I should go from human resource to human service. And that's why I believe in the side thing that it's your mental health it's important. And in the HR field, I can't help but get off the call now that we're in this spot of talking about HRing. We have to hear the worst, and we don't have a good confidant that we can just go talk to, because we really can't. So for what it's worth, I wanted to share that. So
I love that. And in particular, wow, there's a lot that I would like to ask about that. And I'm going to try to keep it to what we originally talked about, but I feel like we could expand and have a part two of this conversation just about that topic. Um, Earlier in when we were talking about culture, you did mention, and we talked about this offline too, was what exactly is, there's kind of like this weird distinction or even perception sometimes about recognition and rewarding and saying thank you. And I do think that there's Obviously my personal feeling is it's everything. It's like it's the most important thing, but it's hard to tie it to something that can say, at least I think it is. Conceptually, it's hard to tie it to, okay, well, I'm glad that they're happy. I'm glad that they're saying that they're appreciating their team members for things, but how do I map that to the success of the organization?
Yeah. And I don't have a great answer. And if someone on this call send me a note, I'm a learner. I'm a curious person, but I think if I were to respond, and I'm in the hot seat right now, I think it's pretty difficult, in terms of, I guess, do you have any examples to go deeper? Because it's such a broad.
Yeah. Let me make sure that I don't mislead you. What I'm saying is like I've actually been in conversations for sessions like this, and I talk about the idea of like you mentioned, you send the handwritten card and the cookies and all that, and or someone says, "Hey, you know what? You did a great job. I wanted to just say thank you. Here's this thing," or the company itself rewards you and literally sends you something.
Yeah.
That's where I'm so curious. Like, what do you see from your seat as like the tangible positive outcome of that outside of, well, that person felt good for a second?
I don't think a dollar value carries the weight of an intentional personal message. So what I mean by that is, if I sent someone cookies and a card, it wasn't about the cookies. I hope they read the message, right? It was, I can recall my writing you a note, Jason. It was, let's grow together, right? I think I did. Let's grow. I don't know, whatever. I'm saying that because it. Oh, you have it. What did I say? I don't know. Let's grow together, because it's intentional, and I think if you reward people for every little thing, they expect it, and I think recognition has to be tied into the behavior you're trying to promote, whatever. Yeah, recognition. If supervisors aren't recognizing, that's the one thing. It's HR should not be the person doing it around them, but recognition in general. It's what was it? Not what's it about. What's it for? Just like with employee conflict, when we deal with situations that all of us had those calls, we've had competing personalities. It's not replace about with for. What's it about? What's recognition for? Are you checking a box? I recognize three people, or do you genuinely care that someone hears? I'm not in your business, to like your unit. I don't know a lot about it. I'm the HR dude, right? But I heard at our leadership team meeting about this deal that you did that you had to get real creative with, and I just want to say it's incredible. Just want to send you a note. That's it. It's nothing more than them being heard and seen, and knowing that it's not I'm important. It's just I want people to know that it's recognized, whether it's done through the supervisor or not. Because as a people advocate, it's having a knowledge of what's going on in your business and recognizing the things that impact our clients. That's what we're all here for, and what you do to impact a client could be broadcasted to other groups to share best practices. There's all kinds of things that go into that, but how do you keep it real? You tie it to results. Recognition is tied to a result. It's a result that you hope the path to get to that result was that path was following whatever you did, or your standard cadence or process, but there's a result that's impacting client, company, or culture. And I'm never going to get to everyone, and I don't have a calendar that says three people a month. If the company told me I need to know that you recognize three people a month, I'd say, well, I can't work here anymore. That's not what it's for. It really isn't. I'm your partner. I'm not the HR guy. We're partners. And I'd hope that every once in a while, it being lonely at the top, you see, hey, I don't need a note, but like, you did an HR thing. That's pretty cool. I don't know what it means, but just letting you know I saw it. I'm the chief IT guy, but I see that HR stuff going on. It's just, look, we're all living through this weirdness of things that go on from COVID, post COVID, and take that for what it is. But when you take the time to tell someone that you acknowledge something they did, whether you're a new hire talking to the CEO or not, I think it's priceless feedback that carries a bigger thing. It's people value that. Now, when you do it all the time, it doesn't mean anything to me when someone oh, good job with that. No, intentionality. And I probably eat my own words here. Just, I try my best to be intentional about it. And it's not, who did I speak to? Did I get to 5 employees this quarter? How many? It's just being genuine and wanting to know and curious about how people are doing. When someone's sick, someone's family passes, it's HR that sends flowers. I mean, we're doing all these things, but recognizing someone for something great in the midst of turmoil in the economy or whatever it is, it feels good too. I think recognition feels good as long as it's done with a purpose and it's not just to send something out, right? It's not about the dollar value of it. It's not about points you send to somebody on some system or how many cookies they got, because I think you got cookies, right? Uh, you know, I think it's really about, what are you trying to drive? In your case, you were a new hire. You're in New Jersey. I wanted you to feel welcome because I couldn't tell you in person. I wanted you to feel comfortable. And then when you're in the office, I wanted you to, benevolence, whatever you want to call it, I want you to feel extra special. We're not going to have a lot of moments like that. And I hope other HR leaders see that it's not that hard, even with thousands of employees, to be intentional about showing care and concern, especially. I want to just end this question with one thing. It's, unless you have follow up, when you solicit feedback in any way, shape, or form, survey, one-on-one, peer, 360, whatever, thanking someone for their feedback is one thing, but recognition is also valuing and respecting what they said and circling back, like I said earlier, to at least acknowledge it was real and saying, hey, we had a good moment there. Here's what I'm doing, but I just want you to know I heard you. Or it's, hey, based on some feedback from the group, we're going to change a process. It's going to take a little time, but just want to recognize, Emily, for bringing this to our attention. No idea. So Emily, thanks. Kudos to you. That's it. So I hope that answered some of your questions with my
It
random.
definitely does. And I think it's what you're saying is actually reminding me quite a bit. Now I have a little bit of a biased experience because I work with you and I see you do this, but what you're talking about and what you live and breathe reminds me of kind of like a parenting technique that I subscribe to, which is lead by example. It's like, it's not, hey, put your iPads down and let's go for a walk. It's, hey, I got to get away from my screen. I've been staring in front of my computer all day. I'm going for a walk. Do you want to come with me? And there's the same outcome you're hoping for, but you're doing it in a very different way. And I think what you're trying to say here is, yeah, you can't get to everybody, regardless if it's a 70-person company or a 20,000-person company. But if you lead by the example of, I'm going to appreciate people when I see opportunities to appreciate people, it's going to scatterbomb. And other people are going to start appreciating people because they see you do it and they're like, that felt really good. I'm going to do the same thing. And it's sort of like that pay it forward sort of technique that sort of has a happenstance to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, I like, it's a great kind of observation. And it's making me kind of think a little bit. I tie it back to, can't get to them all. You said, you
Yeah.
sure as heck can. If you model it right with the supervisors over those places, they feel special. My first handwritten card came from my greatest mentor I've ever had, Rick Wilson, just an incredible leader that he wrote handwritten cards. And I thought it was the most, I have every one of them from back to 1999. Just, he was an operator, had all this going on. He took the time to write a note out about the most random thing. I'm like, is he like doing that just to make me think he listens? But he kept going, like it was a consistent thing. But I began doing little things like that, and within my business, my work. But now is the opportunity to be the HR partner to a fantastic company. Rick modeled that for me, like you said,
Mm,
but I believed in it because he did it with purpose. It was supporting
mm,
something, but so I'd say, yeah, it's a great kind of like parenting. It's modeling it, but it's being just genuine about it and not just doing it to do it.
yeah.
It, I know it's weird to say that's how it all should be, but I think we get so busy with the day to day. What's next? What has to be updated? What we get caught up and it's like, just slow down.
Yeah.
These little yellow notes are great. These little post-it notes that Masha at our office found. It's simple because if you have somebody to write down some things you remember about a recognition piece, hold yourself accountable to recognizing them. It's a great thing to send someone an email, a note, a Slack, a Teams, a whatever it is that you've got at your gig, and don't do it to look for how they respond and whatnot. It's how does that help drive your trust? How does it help them see that you recognize them?
Mm, I like that quite a bit. Thank you. I'm going to ask, I'm looking at the time and I'm going to skip ahead to just one of the questions that we've got in the chat. And that's about, let's see, I'm just going to pick one because we're almost out.
Yeah, and send them
If
over
you,
if I add any value or get feedback from others as
yeah,
well. I'd love to
yeah,
see
I'll make
it.
sure you get the questions so you can respond to them after the fact too. But one of them is, if you are in a situation and you have one person, this is someone from Bangladesh joining the call, which way to go. That's awesome. I can't, what time is it right now? Oh my gosh, you must be tired. The, if you had a boss that says, I want this by 5 p.m. today versus let's do it by 5 p.m. From a culture standpoint, like, I guess the question is like, in terms of that phrasing and that wording, how do you translate those two different same result is being asked for, but just kind of spoken in a different way? How would you respond to that? Which one do you think is I guess better? Is that if that's the right word? I'm trying to make sure I understand the question here.
I'm tracking with you. I think if I were to really get granular, nerd out, what's a role, what's the ask, what's the relationship. But I think just the
Mm,
basic of it is if he, she, they are hearing, I want you to do this by 5, it's likely that they don't have the ability to give feedback, pushback, and have some form of decisional unit to, why is your boss asking you to do something by 5? Did you miss it? But if you think about just the grand scheme of things, 2 questions, I want you to do it by 5. You need to work on the experience you're giving to your supervisor because they see you as a doer. Yes, I'll do it. But you add a lot much more value when you bring something to the table of bringing a part of it and knowing what it's about. Why are we doing it? What's it about? Like, did we both agree? But let's do it. Well, as long as you're there and you know what it is, let's feels a lot better than go do it.
mm,
But I think if I were to change any of that, it's, you know, how are you pushing back? And if I think about what's the question for, not what's this about for, maybe this individual is really trying to figure out how do I best in the most professional way push back on my boss, maybe. And maybe I'm thinking I'm a fortune teller and I don't, but I think it's more deeper than that. But it's hard to
yeah.
decide between the two. But if someone's saying, just think about it in your mind. If I tell my employee, I need you to do this by 5, they're going to get done by 5. But what are you asking your employee to change about their day and
Mm,
reprioritize? And professional maturity, in my opinion, is your ability to talk about compensation, which no one likes to, and your ability to persuade, influence your supervisor and those above. And I think let's feels a lot better. That's what I'll say.
I like that quite a bit. Um, oh, that's great. Okay. Let me look at, let's see. We are at time. I didn't realize that, but Chris, this has been a really good conversation.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna get you. There's about one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 questions that didn't get answered, but I'm gonna send them over to you so you can just kind of reach out to the folks that ask these questions, and we'll go from there. But gosh, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time today to just get inside the head of what it's like. So thank you. Everyone will get a copy of the recording, the follow up, etc. And Chris is an open door kind of guy, and he's happy to chat with you if you have any further questions. But Chris, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for your time today. This has been very insightful and quite frankly uplifting. So thank you for your time.
Oh, well, I'm glad. And please connect with me, and I'd love to learn from you as well. So look forward to it, and have a great rest of the week. And we'll talk all to everyone real soon, I guess. And Jason, thanks again.
Amazing. Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.